Good day, everyone. This is Andrew Lampett. I'm joined with Sanjeev Nath. Again, this webinar is Confluence as a dashboard. So what we're going to be showing and discussing today is having the Confluence Enterprise Wiki act as a portal and dashboard for seeing contextual content of various applications and tools. So not simply displaying content from a number of systems, but rather have them contextually woven together so that you see the content reconciled amongst each other. So I'm going to get underway here in just a moment. I'll show you the agenda here. And here's what we have planned for the webinar today. First, a little bit about the company, for those of you not aware about zAgile and its background. We'll talk a little bit about the challenges that you might encounter if you're trying to set up a dashboard within your organization. We'll talk about some strengths of the Atlassian Confluence Wiki. Also, the flip side to that, some challenges with the wiki if you're going to try to use that as a dashboard today. And then, that will be the nice segue to talk about what Wikidsmart dashboards look like, and then we'll give you an overview of the whole Wikidsmart platform. I'd like to point out now that this whole webinar is actually about a feature of the Wikidsmart platform. So it's not even a particular product. In other words, with any kind of capabilities that you choose in using Wikismart, you'll have these capabilities of the dashboard that we're going to be showing here today, as well as the faceted search and interoperability and traceability. So in other words, these are powerful benefits, and you could even think of them as side effect benefits of the platform, as opposed to one feature or one product unto itself. So we're going to spend some time to show that to you in action. Sanjeev will do a demo of Confluence as a dashboard, pulling in content from different enterprise systems. And then he'll hand it back to me and I'll summarize, and I'll make some suggested next steps. So first, about the company, in a nutshell, zAgile was founded back in 2006 with the mission to integrate application lifecycle management tools, that is, software engineering tools. And over time, we found that since the platform was built in you could say, a generic, extensible way, we've been able to go beyond software engineering to other domains. We've done that with Help Desk, with Zendesk, and with Salesforce for CRM. There you see a number of our both technology and services partners. And we invite you to take a look at some nice press coverage we've received in InfoWorld and SD Times. There's a selection of some of our delighted customers, and we'd be delighted to go into detail with you about any of those. In fact, there's some case studies published on our website that I invite you to check out. So let's dive right into it. What are some of the challenges with dashboards? Well, number one, you're going to find it frequently when you're trying to set up a dashboard or portal, depending on the context and what you want to achieve, is first things first is setting up the GUI. It's probably a new, unfamiliar GUI to the users involved. So now you've got to coax them to say, hey, you've got a dashboard, it's over here, go into some other system, which is not always the most desirable scenario. Secondly, you're going to have challenges in displaying the content in a contextual way. For example, Salesforce content, how does it relate to Zendesk or Jira content? You don't want to have either one of these choices to choose from. The first choice is, there's a pane that shows Jira content, and over there is a pane that shows Salesforce content, and down there is a pane that shows Zendesk content. What use is that? That's essentially showing you 4 mini views of the applications. What you want is to see, if you're looking at Salesforce content in one pane, you want to see the Jira content that's relevant right underneath it, or maybe have 4 different panes that show all the relevant content in a contextual way. So when I see the Salesforce content, I see the relevant Jira content next to it. So, a way to try to alleviate that problem is to get some sophisticated middleware, and there's a number of options out there. And that provides a way to have a federated layer so that you see those systems in a unified way. The challenge, though, is those tend to be complex and they're difficult to build and maintain. Well, whether you find that point debatable, depending on your system or depending upon your expertise, maybe you've already got those kinds of things in-house. Let's face it, down below, you've got a number of other things. There's not a faceted search of concepts. In other words, you typically have to fall back to this idea of keyword search, and there's no keyword search across all the content. You'd have to bring in yet another thing like an external search appliance. And then finally, no traceability or data lineage. So in other words, if you do a search or if you see an item within your dashboard, you'd like to be able to see what is the stuff that's contextually tangential to it. And if I click on that, let's again see the children or parent concepts to that particular item. This is all discussing, this whole slide is discussing simply the dashboard as challenges. And as you'll see a little bit later, Wikidsmart as a whole does something even much more powerful, which is providing interoperability, bidirectional interoperability of the content amongst these systems as well. So again, what I'm presenting here is some of the challenges that you're going to face. Now, okay, let's say we want to go down the path of Confluence. And that brings us to this next slide. So we say, hey, Confluence, that could be an interesting option as a dashboard for a number of ways. For those of you not aware of Atlassian's Confluence, it's a powerful and very popular enterprise wiki from the makers of Jira, which is perhaps the most popular issue tracker out there. And so there's many, many strengths with Confluence. Here's just several of them. Number one, it's familiar. So it's very likely that your organization already is using Confluence. Certainly they're already familiar with a wiki and they're familiar with the GUI. So that's great. You don't have to tell somebody to go to a different interface. Secondly, it's easy to create content. That's nice. Everybody knows or can easily learn how to create content within the wiki. It's kind of an instant collaboration platform because everyone has access to it. People can modify things as required. And, it's widely distributed throughout an organization. Usually, folks might start off deploying the wiki only within a certain department, perhaps engineering, but pretty soon thereafter, it usually spreads quite quickly throughout the organization because it is such an easy interface to deal with. Now, those are the pros of working with Confluence, but now, remember the task at hand is to turn that into a dashboard. So what are some of the challenges? Well, first and foremost, it's a double-edged sword when you're talking about a wiki. On the plus side, it's unstructured. On the downside, it's unstructured. So in other words, you can go in and type in any content you want. But if you want to have kind of an enterprise view of things, it's nice to have structure in that context. So you want to be able to pull in something called an issue, something called an account, something called a ticket from help desk. That's all very important. Those are all very important reasons to have structure and be able to represent that structure in a semantic way within the wiki. And finally, remember that second point about weaving the content together. You want to be able to have the Salesforce content relevant to Zendesk and Jira and so forth and so on in order to manifest dashboards within the wiki, and likewise to enable traceability and search as I described before. So those are the challenges today that you can't easily achieve that with Confluence on its own. So that's where Wikidsmart comes in. And again, these are features of the platform. I wouldn't call this a standalone product per se. So what we're going to be doing is using Confluence as the GUI, and that's great because it's a GUI that most folks are familiar with within organizations. And the way we're going to generate dashboards is to actually have queries drive it. So the content that you see in a dashboard within Confluence, within this demo, is actually driven by queries. And those queries are talking to the heart of the solution, of the Wikidsmart solution called the Wikidsmart Context Server. The context server is where the magic happens. And we'll be talking about the magic a little bit later in a couple more slides. That's also going to be able to enable you to achieve within the same GUI faceted search of concepts. For example, I'm looking for an issue. within this project, or I'm looking for an account um, with these kinds of characteristics, or starting with this text string. And then finally, as you're looking at concepts, or maybe you do a search and you find a list of search results matching your criteria, guess what? You can search, or you can navigate the search results and actually kind of surf across the information landscape, going from issue to task, or from project to drilling into requirements, and then from requirements jumping across to test cases. You're traversing the whole information landscape just like you would a web. So it's a very appropriate analogy. So let's dive into what is Wikidsmart. Um, so it's a couple main things. And first thing is, it's an integration platform. So what that means is we're able to integrate software engineering tools like Jira, and version control tools, and continuous integration, and peer code review, all those kinds of things you can think of within software engineering. If we got a connector for Wikidsmart, you're in good luck, because everything is instantly integrated. You don't have to do manual integration. Likewise, we can integrate Salesforce into the mix, or CRM, and also help desk, so organizations, tickets, etc. So number one, it's an integration platform. And these other things like dashboards and traceability and search, faceted search, those all flow from this integration platform approach. Secondly, it's a template-based, model-driven composite application platform. So it's not the subject of this, or the core subject of this webinar, but it's important for you to know that you're going to be able to turn Confluence into an application platform in tandem with Jira, because remember, Jira has workflow. So you will be able to achieve things like requirements management within Confluence, integrated with Jira. Test case management within Confluence, integrated with Jira. Customer onboarding. If you have a professional services team, or a technical support team, or all these teams together, what are all the things that have to be done in a unified, orchestrated way to bring on a new customer? Maybe professional services has to start a new project. They have to fulfill some tasks that are monitored in Jira. Engineering team needs to be aware of and help with those tasks. And sales teams in Salesforce need to be aware of the status of those things. All of that is orchestrated very easily with Wikidsmart. So it's appealing to cross-functional teams who are often lost between the different applications, and they don't have access, or they don't want to go into different applications or tools. They only want to stay in their home base. If you're a salesperson, you want to stay in Salesforce. If you're an engineer, you want to stay in Jira. And so what Wikidsmart allows you to do is to see the content from those different applications and tools, and even those functions and processes. So for example, if I'm within Salesforce, I can create an issue of Jira within Salesforce. That's just a very tiny example about that interoperability. So how does it work? So here we have some examples. We've got the famous old silos. So, and I have the concepts shown on the side. You got a GUI at the top for your different applications or tools. And then, of course, that application or tool has content stored in a data store, whether it's a file structure or a repository like a database. And it's all part of the same system, but you have the idea of concepts, features, logic, processes within each of these applications and tools. And so these things don't work together very well today when they're in these silos. And so what people try to do sometimes is to hack a connection between the two or three, and they do point-to-point connectors. And it goes back to the problem that I was mentioning before. You don't have a unified view. Once you get to application 3, 4, 5, and 6, you don't have search across all of these. You don't have traceability. You don't have a unified dashboard view. So what Wikidsmart aims to achieve is to introduce this concept of a knowledge model, also known as a knowledge graph. For those of you who are interested in the latest trends in graphs, social graphs, we've all heard about social graphs from LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. Well, this is the graph for the enterprise. Okay, so what we're doing is encapsulating a knowledge for given domains. So when I say knowledge, I mean concepts and how they're related to one another. For example, code has tasks, and there's requirements associated to code, and there's tests associated with code, and QA folks create test plans, etc. The people in the roles, as I described a little bit, and functions and methodologies or processes. And so some of those domains are the ones that I mentioned before: software engineering, CRM, help desk. It could be finance, it could be insurance, it could be healthcare, it could be particular domains of healthcare, and so forth and so on. So we have this knowledge model all ready to go for you for software engineering, CRM, and help desk. So what's that look like in a marketecture kind of way? Well, remember those concepts I mentioned before: GUI on the left, and then data store down below. But I moved the logical stuff, the concepts, features, logic, I put those in the middle instead. And so now what we have is an intermediate layer, this graph database or this knowledge model that is an overlay, if you will. It's non-invasive, so it's not infiltrating any of these applications or tools. It's an intermediate semantic layer is what you can think of it as. And it's bidirectional. So what's happening is the GUI, when we're doing things like dashboards and search, would talk to this context server, and that context server in turn talks to the data stores of the different applications and tools. So let's go in a little bit deeper. Here is kind of a more full-fledged or a different view of the architecture. And so you have these different applications and tools. We have software engineering at the top, along with CRM and help desk. If we go down below, that's the different areas that we're addressing. So you got requirements management, issue tracking, etc. And then you have the specific applications and tools mentioned under that. Now, very importantly, in the colored areas with the arrows, this is the key concept of how Wikidsmart works in action, is that each one of these box areas, you see it says connector underneath them. On the left, it says green connector, and then the next one is a blue connector, and so forth and so on. These are the contextually relevant attributes that Wikidsmart, that the connector for each application and tool imports from the different applications and tools. It captures and integrates those. It maps those to the knowledge model that you see down below in Wikismart Context Server. And this is where the magic happens. Now that we know how they're all related, we can serve that contextually relevant content back as dashboards, as a search, and as solutions like requirements management and test case management and so forth. We can serve those back into those applications and tools. So again, what we're doing is using the existing applications and tools in a different way. Okay, so we're able to drive new solutions, we're able to drive dashboards and search, etc. So what are some of the benefits? Number one, many times when we talk about data integration approaches or application integration approaches, we're talking about ETL or EAI or EII, all the three-letter acronyms you can think of. And what those approaches do is they say, here is the tool set, here are the connectors, now go for it. It might take you weeks or months, but go build your integration. And what we do, on the other hand, with Wikidsmart is we say, here are your connectors, plug them in, you're done. The integration is there. Now go use it. Okay, so we're talking about, in many cases, instant integration, at the very least, extremely fast integration. So what's that achieve for you? Bullet number 2, you're achieving consistency. So you can capture content in semantic forms, which is useful for requirements management and some of the other solutions I described. Bullet number 3, now you can achieve faceted search in a very easy way, traceability, and reports and dashboards, the theme of this webinar. And finally, this is extensible and future-proof. So everything that we're talking about here is open standards, open source, and you can create your new applications. So you can think of some of the solutions we provide as examples. You can build whole new solutions if you want, manifested within Confluence, within Jira, within Salesforce, within Zendesk, whatever you want. So these are the different solutions that exist on the Wikidsmart platform. And I'm not going to go into each one of them into detail. I just want to show this on the screen that you're aware that they exist. And I do want to make clear that the dashboards that we're talking about today and that we're showing today are manifested in each of these solutions. So again, the Wikismart dashboards are a feature of all these different solutions. So with that, what I'd like to do is hand it over to Sanjeev, and he's going to walk you through and show you in action what's going on with seeing the demo of Wickidsmart dashboards.
Thank you, Andrew, and greetings, everyone. And thank you for joining us today. So what I want to do is basically talk about a number of different powerful capabilities that we have with Wikidsmart that allow you to create very powerful dashboards within Confluence itself. Although Confluence is only one of the applications where the information can be rendered this way, but in this particular case, it is the most collaborative and convenient platform for accomplishing that. So so in terms of the capabilities that come with Wikidsmart out of the box, the first thing that I want to start with is the ability to build very rich reports. So Wikidsmart comes bundled with Jasper report libraries to allow you to render reports, charts, and graphs and stuff within Confluence. It also comes bundled with a plugin for iReport, which is a fairly powerful report designer tool. So let's start with that first to give you an idea of how you construct reports that you can render within Confluence to create your dashboards. So as you can see here, for example, we're looking at iReport Designer from Jaspersoft. It's an open source tool. And you can, you can have a plugin, for example, from zAgile for iReport itself. And you install the plugin. You can configure the plugin to connect directly to zAgile's Wikidsmart contact server. And you can see the connection to zCom server here, for example, with the token. This allows you to not only design the reports, but also test them with real data. And if you look, for example, at the query, so one of the other things that the iReport plugin that we provide supports is Sparkle query, because Sparkle is a query language. It's a W3C standard query language that is used to query the graph database that Andrew had earlier mentioned. So Wikidsmart Context Server supports queries through Sparkle. So you can write, and it's a very SQL-like query language. So you can write query languages, Sparkle queries, and as a way of capturing all of the inputs that you can then design within the reports themselves. So this is a query. You can also, for example, preview the data, look at the first 100 records just to see what the data would look like, for instance. So the reports can be designed both in terms of just details, like here, for instance, bug detail, bug description, priority status, assignee. You can have task detail report, for example. But you can also preview them to see, as you're designing it, how the report is going to look. So this gives you, again, this is accessing real-time data within Wikidsmart Context Server to give you a sense of what the report would look like and what the data is. And then, of course, you can also create graphs. So here's another one, task status by release. And there's a very powerful designer that allows you a lot of capabilities in terms of how you can design different types of graphs and charts and stuff. So that's the first part of it, which is really being able to create very powerful reports. Now, the second part here is being able to embed these reports within Confluence itself. So the Wikidsmart plugin for Confluence supports embedding Jasper reports. And of course, because the reports are communicating through queries with Wikidsmart Context Server, the data that the report renders is always going to be real-time data. So let's take a look at another capability in terms of how you can basically combine these reports along with other information to create your dashboards. So one of the things that Wikidsmart plugin for Confluence provides is the ability to create templates for these dashboards. And these templates are specific to concepts. So there's a particular space when you install the plugin, the Confluence plugin. There's a space called Z-rendering template, where we provide a number of different templates, and you can customize them, you can create your own. But each template here corresponds directly to a particular concept that it will render, for example, Jira project or release, or for instance, a story or feature. So these are all different templates. So we can look at example of a feature template. And here, what we want to basically render for any feature that that we're capturing within Confluence itself, or even within Jira, we want to know what the related artifacts are. We want to know what the check-in activity is, what the bugs are, and so on. And so take a look. Let's take a look at what this would look like if it is rendered with real data. So here, for example, the way this would work is if you, for example, here we're capturing a feature within Confluence itself. So there's some feature summary description. The feature is tied to a project, and there may be other actions that you can take related to this feature. For example, you can create Jira stories in Greenhopper. You can create design documents. You can create test suites and so on associated with the feature. Now, for any particular feature, you can click on this About box to look at its properties or its dashboard. So if I click on this, for example, now I will see all the relevant information or contextual information, if you will, that is associated with this feature. So again, all the whatever is known about it, all the documents that are associated with this feature are pulled in, the check-in activities. So in terms of dashboarding, as Andrew had pointed out, what we're doing here, what you're looking at, is where we're pulling information across from multiple sources. So the check-in activity here is being pulled in from Subversion through Fisheye. Related documents have been captured within Confluence. The related stories are from Greenhopper. And then any development tasks associated with those stories, captured within Jira itself. Related bugs. So if there's any reported bugs associated with the feature, in Jira itself, any test execution history by release. So this is where you start to see how combining queries and reports and dashboards, you can start to create your own views for specific objects that you want to look at. And from release management perspective, you can have those views at a feature level. You can have that view at a task level, or, for example, at a test case level. So if we were to look at test case 2, for example, you would see a very different dashboard that, you can customize in terms of the test case itself, what component it's part of, what test suite it belongs to, what requirement it pertains to, and what is the test execution history for it. If you go to that requirement, for example, then you would get the same kind of detail at the requirement level. And same thing again, as we pointed out earlier in terms of templates, these dashboard templates. Here's a template for release. So here you can have what are the pending items for a particular release, who's the lead, description, what project it's associated with, what are the development tasks, what features and requirements are part of it, and so on. So again, anytime you're looking at this view, the information is collected from across tools through Wikidsmart Context Server. And so if you were to actually go and click on a release, and let's do that now. So we'll go to our project list within Confluence itself. We can click on particular release, and you'll see, for instance, whatever information that is pertaining to the release automatically pulled in. Let's look at something more interesting here. Maybe this one has more data. So here you'll see, for example, there's a pending items associated with the release within Jira itself, and these could be to-do tasks and other types of activities. Who the lead is, what description is, what project it's associated with, the status of the release. Has it been released already? Is it pending? is it archived, what the development and test execution status, what features are part of this release, what are the tasks associated with it, whether they're open or closed, and so on. So there's a number of different things you can do in terms of incorporating various types of dashboard and information within Confluence itself. Here you're looking at a combination of queries that are pulling this information as well as feeding the Confluence-based native charts. But there are other examples of what you can do with embedding Jasper reports, as we had shown you. So here, for instance, we are now looking at information that is captured from a bunch of hosted applications, GitHub, Launchpad, and Garrett, which is for code review. So this particular dashboard is showing you daily commit activity and bug resolution activity. Commit activities coming from GitHub, and bug resolution activities coming from Launchpad itself. And this is essentially across a particular project. So now if you were to, for example, continue, and these again are reports that were built using iReport, report designer tool, and embedded within Confluence pages. And so if you click on organization, for instance, now you will see, again, leveraging both reports and queries. So the left side of the page shows you a Sparkle query that gives you a list of all the organizations that are participating in this particular community project called OpenStack. And on the right, you'll see essentially a chart that's displaying activity level per organization. So the different colors here represent, for example, check-in activity and bug fixes performed at the organization level. So here you can look at all the different organizations, and if you want to go deep into one particular organization to look at the detailed activities, you can click, for example, on Rackspace hosting, and now you'll get a lot of the details associated with Rackspace hosting. Who are the contributors for this particular project? You know, what repositories they have signed up for or they own, what's their commit history, what bugs have been resolved, and what the monthly activities are, for example, in terms of commits. So a lot of different examples of the types of reports that can be created just using this combination of iReport, report designer, Jasper report libraries that allow you to embed reports within Confluence pages, the Sparkle query that allows you to create various types of tables and charts and stuff even within Confluence itself. And then, of course, the ability to template all of that to pull this information. So here we're looking at Jesse Andrews as a particular contributor associated with Rackspace. You know, commit activity for Jesse Andrews, and then more detailed information. This is totally generated from Sparkle query, which is now pulling in from commits that are from GitHub to you know, particular bugs that are associated with a commit that are defined within Launchpad, and then of course the code reviews that were done in Garrett itself. So those are essentially some of the examples of how you can create a lot of different types of dashboards as you're pulling information from various tools. So far in these examples, we've shown you how you have tied basically Fisheye, Subversion, Jira, Confluence, Greenhopper into these type of dashboards. You can, and of course here, GitHub, Launchpad, and Garrett. And then you can do the same with Salesforce and Zendesk, as Andrew had pointed out. So here, also within Confluence itself, at the account level, you can see what are the pending action items in Jira, what are the reported cases that were reported from within Salesforce itself, or if you wanted to integrate Zendesk, you would have any reported tickets that are coming from Zendesk. So at the account level, at the overall customer level, you can create various types of dashboards, both in the context of CRM and support. So Andrew, I will turn that back to you.
Wow, sorry for the delay there. Just trying to get switched over here. Thank you, Sanjeev. And let's see, now you can show my screen. There we go. Okay, so you've seen Wikidsmart in action, specifically with dashboards. I think Sanjeev did a good job of giving you the tour. He started off, of course, showing a little bit more of the technical side as to how you would actually make the dashboards in the background by composing some queries. And that's an example of how to build those queries. And then those queries, of course, go against the Wikidsmart context server. And then the results are manifested within the wiki as we have described all along. And likewise, of course, you've got faceted search available to you as well. So let me, oops, I wanted to summarize first. So let me go back to this other slide here. There we go. So to summarize, you have a solution here that's pragmatic, flexible, and powerful. And we're showing dashboards within Confluence, pulling content in a contextual way where the content is woven together from other applications and tools. And beyond just the dashboards, the platform guarantees a number of things: interoperability, consistency, and traceability, as well as a faceted search as well. So what are next steps? Well, if you have any questions, there's our email at the top, info@zagile.com. And the way we can help with your projects is, number one, technical support. We offer annual subscriptions, so you can secure your project and have the comfort to know that, if any questions pop up, we're here to help you. And you can make sure that information is always flowing at the absolute best peak performance. And then with respect to services, we can help you achieve the dashboards in the way that Sanji was describing very quickly with the best practices that we would suggest. And we can start things off with you, if you want, in a kind of easy, digestible manner with a pilot or a jumpstart, however you want to call it, uh, to make sure that you've achieved things the way you want, and you can kind of take it for a test drive with the best practices, solutions, confidence. And then finally, if you want to extend the environment to different applications and tools that you have, we can help you build those connectors very quickly. And I'd also like to underline that last bullet point. If you go to zAgile.com and look under products, there's a subheading for white papers. And this is the white paper that's featured. Is about using Confluence as an enterprise dashboard. So this goes into much more detail about what we've described here in the webinar. So I think you'll find that very interesting reading if this topic continues to be of interest for you. So that's it for now. If there's any questions, please also email us at info@zagile.com. I've already answered a number of those throughout the webinar. One of the more popular ones was, will this be recorded? Yes. As for all of our webinars, we record them and we post them on YouTube on their zAgile channel. That's accessible from zagile.com. If you look under either events or the product section, you'll see links for videos. But I'll go ahead and send out a link to those of you who have requested it as well. So again, thank you for your time, and hope this was beneficial, and see you next time. We have another webinar in a couple weeks. Bye-bye.